Calgary real estate is on absolute fire right now, and there are no signs of slowing down anytime soon. So let's go check it out. Hi, my name is Fyfe, your Calgary Realtor. If you're looking at stepping into the market, it is very important to set up a call well in advance. If you want more information about specific information about communities, price points, anything like that, go ahead, click the Zoom link and book a call with me. I promise I'm pretty easy to talk to. So let's go ahead and start with this chart here. Now, this chart has a lot of information. Total residential, all property types in all quadrants. The red line is the price point. You can see that the price point has just cracked $560,000 for the benchmark price of a home in Calgary, Alberta. You can see that the blue bar is inventory and the green bar is sales. If you look at the blue bar from last year, you can see that the inventory was over 5,000 homes left over at the end of the month. Where if you look at inventory now in May, you can see that we are just over 3,000. You can see that the sales have actually increased from last May and June as well. You can see that the sales to inventory is very tight, which clearly indicates to me that prices are going to continue to rise. Inventory is the biggest issue that Calgary is seeing right now with the just sheer amount of people moving here, all the people that wanting to buy real estate. I can confidently say that the prices are going to continue to go up at least for 2023. Feel free to pause the video and read this in its entirety because I'm not going to read it out fully. But what it does talk about are the significant increase in condominium sales, which really helped kind of offset some of the numbers here. Now, the sales to new listing ratio is 85% and only 1 month of supply. So there is a continuation for favoring of the seller, and there will be more price increases as the year progresses. Now, one of the other things that it does touch on is that the unadjusted benchmark price rose to $557,000, almost 3% higher than last year's peak of $543,000. So the benchmark price in 1 year has now increased by, let's say, $13,000, $14,000. Pretty wild. Now here's a quick snapshot of different property types in all of Calgary. You can see total residential, so everything morphed into one, has risen to $557,000, which is the highest in Calgary's history. It has never been more expensive to buy a house in Calgary ever. You can see that the detached price is $674,000, up 4.2% last year. Semi-detached $600,000, townhouse $390,000, and apartment $298,000. Now, what's really crazy about this is the apartment price has increased by nearly 11% year over year. Apartments last year really held their ground when I was doing these monthly reports. They did really well when everything else was falling. I did not anticipate seeing 11% increase again for another year over year for apartments. So if you're getting out there, make sure that you are well prepared to stay competitive, because at the end of the day, these home prices are increasing, and I think it's put a lot of people into a surprise state. We were not anticipating to see this craziness. So let's dive into it a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to read this out as well, but if you want to see what the Calgary Real Estate Board has to say about each property type, go ahead, pause the video and give it a read. I will be uploading each individual property type video in the coming week, so stay tuned for that. Now let's look at the year-to-date stats package for total residential in all of Calgary. I'm not going to dive into this too deeply, but we're just going to touch on it. You can see that the sales went up to 3,100, new listings luckily went up to 3,600, and inventory basically stayed the same. So sales increased, new listings increased, but the inventory is still at 3,200 homes left over at the end of the month. It's actually been fairly flat since March, April, May. Now, inventory is just the leftover homes at the end of the month. So the lower the number, the tighter the conditions. You can see last year, June, July, May, June, July, it was all over 5,000, where this year it's 3,200. So there is a very serious limiting amount of homes currently in this market. You can see in December and January, when everything basically slows down, it drops down to about 2,000. But when you have 3,100 sales and 3,200 homes left over at the end of the month, it's very tight conditions. Now, days on market didn't fall, it was at 24 days. The benchmark price is up to 557. The average price has gone up to 551. But again, I don't really touch on average too often because it fluctuates all the time. Benchmark price is very good, and I have made a couple of different videos about the features of a benchmark home, so make sure to check those out. Moving along, this is a map of Calgary. Now we're going to start to break this down a little bit more. This is each individual quadrant total residential. So you can see that Calgary East is $370,000 for total residential, up 10% from last year. But if you go all the way to the west, you can see that the total residential is $679,000. Very large difference there. Northeast, $455, Northwest, $603. You can go on from there. Now, it's nice to see that the city center has basically stayed stagnant. City center is always very interesting. You can even just look at the little arrows here. You can see it had a little bit of a dip and it actually recorrected to about the same price point as it was last year. Again, total residential. But this is your first step in figuring out how each individual quadrant is going to be different for your personal situation. Now, to take this one step even further, this is the total sales by price range. Now, you can see that the yellow bar last year and even the green bar the year before that, we had a lot more sales. Now, the inventory was a lot better. There was a lot more selection. So when you look at the red bar, you see that the sales are quite low compared to last year, but the prices have gone up dramatically compared to last year. So you can see that basically it's an even playing field. The $200,000 to $300,000 price point is still surprisingly getting quite a bit of action, about actually the most in this section. And then everything else is very kind of even playing field, I guess you can say. Again, this is a really good step to figure out how this would affect your personal situation, but let's move on. Now, this is the macro outlook, or sorry, the micro outlook for each individual property type in each quadrant of Calgary. I am not going to touch on this in great detail because that's what the individual property type videos are for. Now, if you want, pause the video, go through this. There's a lot of interesting things in here. And if you want to listen to what I have to say about it, watch the individual property type videos coming up in the next week. Now, this next chart here is quite interesting because it gives a visual representation of every single property type in every quadrant in Calgary and gives you their price, their benchmark price. The most expensive product type and area in Calgary right now is the single family home in Calgary West, closely followed by semi-detached and detached homes in city center. Now, take your time, look through the quadrants. You can see just different prices all throughout the city. This will give you a pretty good understanding that if you were looking for, let's just say, a townhouse, you can see that there are different price points in different quadrants. So if you got pre-approved for $400,000, this will help you gain an idea of what you could potentially get in each individual quadrant and each individual property type. So we do touch on that during the call on Zoom. So let's continue on. Now, this last chart here is very interesting. I do like this one a lot. This is the year-over-year price growth comparison. All this is showing year-over-year increasing compared to last year. You can see that the biggest increase has been apartments in Calgary North. They have seen a 16% year-over-year increase, followed by townhouses in Northeast, South, and East. They have all seen over 14-15% year-over-year, where the, I guess you could say the flat line would be the semi-detached in Calgary Southeast, which only saw 2% increase. Still an increase nonetheless, but the Southeast semi-detached homes really aren't moving that much. So how does this affect you? I can't tell you. You need to book a Zoom call. If you have any questions about what this means for your personal situation, get a pre-approval, figure out your numbers, and reach out to me and let's have a deeper conversation. It is so important to actually go and make a plan. There are a lot of different strategies that I've utilized this year. I've found some great success with buyers and sellers for that matter this year by utilizing different strategies. If you're just concentrating on the newest listings that are coming on the market, it's going to be very competitive. If you actually set up a call and you get to figure out what's going on in the market and you start looking at some older product, stuff's been on the market for 20 days, you can still get the deals. You can still get a potential price reduction on the asking price depending on how you approach it. Writing a personal letter, making sure that you're putting an emotion behind the offer, doing some various things and just trying to get to know the seller as much as you can to best situate your contract to kind of reflect their most important needs, I guess you could say. But regardless, book a Zoom call if you have any questions. I'm here to help. I've helped a lot of people this year and it's been very thrilling to say the least. So thank you very much for watching this. Please feel free to comment, like the video, share it, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.